event, or find the people in your region that may or may not go to that event and say, hey, I'm going to be at this event. Are you going to be there?
Smart. Yeah.
Just ask them out of curiosity. Curious, are you going to be there as well? You know, that kind of a thing. And then once you get there, you're going to have a bunch of people come up to you, which you're used to and all that kind of stuff. So you'll be good there. Hey, yeah, it was great reconnecting with you on LinkedIn, whether you've been connected with them for a long time or not, doesn't really matter. You're there. They saw your name come up before the event. Mm-hmm. You're greeting people at the door, doing all sorts of cool things, whatever you decide to do. And then you're going to end up with 2 or 3 appointments coming out of that event minimum, just from the pre-LinkedIn messaging outreach. And then you do it again afterwards. Everybody you meet, all the business cards, all the name tags you took a picture of, the list you saw on the table that you took a quick snapshot of. Mm-hmm. You go back and you have your assistant or somebody or yourself or an AI tool go and connect with everybody on LinkedIn.
Nice.
And you do a post-event LinkedIn little mini authentic curiosity-based campaign like, hey, I was curious. This is my takeaway from the event. What was yours?
Ooh, that's smart. I like that.
You got to go super curious. Super curious. Just like you're doing an interview. Just like Nate and I are going to be talking with each other. We're going to be super curious, right?
Yep. I love it. I love it. What's up, Nate? How you doing, brother?
What's up, guys? I got to put my sunglasses on. It's not because I'm too cool because it's Friday morning, because it's damn sunny out
here. I look like a striped tiger. Look at this.
Yes.
How's everybody doing today? Timothy, how you doing today?
Good, Nate. I've heard lots of good things about you. Let's go. I'm excited.
Sounds good. We'll ignore the mess behind me. I live out of my car. I'm a door-to-door salesman during the day, and that's just the humble way to say it, but that's what I do here. So call me Willie Loman, buddy.
I'll go first. So this is Clifford Starks Enterprises, the founder of the Fighters Formula.
Great. Yeah, I'm Timothy Morgan. I'm the founder, CEO of Giver Marketing Network.
All right, perfect. Nate Fochtman, founder of the Free Mind Group. And real quick, before we jump in, Clifford, with his introduction of Timothy, I'm just going to remind everybody there are no scripts. There's no prep. Clifford and I are the laziest podcast hosts in the world. We go into these absolutely cold. I have no clue who Timothy is, and that's the joy of this. This is the realest thing on the internet. Get ready to watch strangers connect and find out how easy it is.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, I actually met Timothy Morgan through LinkedIn. And when we connected, holy crap, the guy he's a brilliant individual, curious individual. He loves to learn, loves to grow. And he's actually connected with the marketing strategist I work with personally, Kendall Cook. And I love what he's going to share, because every time I see him, he provides value in my life. So I'm looking forward to the audience hearing what he's doing. And he also has a book coming out in a week. Is it called Jade, Timothy?
Yeah, Jade, like the color or the gem.
Awesome. Yeah, so I want to also, because Nate's going to be asking most of the questions, talk around his book if you're open to it, because it was a labor of love. He put it together and it's coming out. So I'm excited about that.
Timothy, tell us give us an overview of give us you're on LinkedIn, you're in networking. Give us a little bit of your elevator pitch to give me a synopsis of kind of what you do, and then we'll jump into some hard-hitting deep questions.
Yeah, I started out as a marketing coach. Clients were asking me for 1-hour sessions. I ended up helping them double, triple, sometimes 10x their results. And from there, they were curious if I could build a small team for them to execute on the strategies that we were putting together. And so now what I do is I'm a dream team builder of marketing, communication, media professionals. But it all comes from this thing called the Giver Marketing Network, which was an accidental surprise because I had created my own job, but I was a lonelypreneur in the marketing space. And so I invited a few friends. Clifford just mentioned one individual who's part of our network, and there's 150 plus of us that get together, connect, and we're all members of the Giver Marketing Network. So we build dream teams based on each other's talents. So there's dozens and dozens and dozens of dream teams going on at any given time through the Giver Marketing Network for clients who need marketing, communication, media, AI assisted awesomeness of any kind. And we just love helping clients by building dream teams for them. And I function personally as a fractional CMO. So if somebody has a little gap in that area of leadership around marketing, communication, media of any kind, I can either lead the team, build the team, or bolt on team members.
Awesome. I can see why Clifford was excited to connect us, because we do exactly the same thing.
Yay! I love it. That's cool.
So yeah. I don't have it as it's not a formal network or anything like that, but that's exactly how I do things. I've been a solopreneur for the past 15 years, and been every single thing I told Clifford a couple weeks ago, I try to envision it like it's like Ocean's 11. Like I just call a bunch of flunkies and a motley crew of Mr. T, and get everybody around in the van, and then we nail some projects, and then we disappear to our lives, and then we come back together when the call comes.
I like that analogy. That's super cool, Nate. I love that.
It started as I was watching, I was living in a very rural area, and I was watching general contractors run these multi-million-dollar businesses and never have employees. And that's when the light bulb clicked. And I went to college for marketing and PR, bachelor's degree and all that stuff. But it was like, starting an agency was always my goal. I started this business my senior year of college, and that was the goal. But at the same time, over time, the world kept changing, and I graduated in 2008, right at this recession, and that forced, there was no jobs available. So what are you going to do? Start your own life. And so I appreciate what you're doing, Timothy. I'm excited to get into this. So let's talk about, the Giver Network. What are some of the different types? If I'm somebody that says, oh, I want to work with authentic people to validate each other in a non-corporate setting, what are some of the types of highlight projects that you guys work on, or services, if you don't want to get too specific? You know what I mean?
Yeah, every member of our network has a niche that they work with, but the common thread and sort of the through line of what we really try to focus on is causes and companies that have a specific purpose or a mission for good. They have some kind of philanthropic edge, socially conscious capitalism, something good that's very specific in their mission statements, their vision, their direction. And those are because they usually have a story. We like to use that narrative and really push that out and push that above the noise. There's a lot of noise in a lot of spaces right now, and part of it's due to a little bit of an economic boom we had a while back, and then a little bit of technology boom we're having right now. But that noise can only be leveraged if you rise above it. And so that's really what we're trying to do with those causes and companies. I'm working with one company right now. We're trying to help them reach 100 million in revenue, and they're the most badass consumer packaged goods, highest nutritional product you'll ever see on the shelf. It's got twice the density in some cases of other products, and it's just unbelievable what they're doing to help bring nutrition to families. And so companies like that literally will not move from their values, but they have a narrative or a story. Oh man, it's game over if we're able to help them.
I appreciate that. When you talk about the brand journey and the story, I'm like one step more towards that, where I get a lot of startups in my line of work that need help creating their story. And that started out when I worked in the craft beer industry from like 2010 to 2017. Every craft brewery was a bunch of dudes from college that everybody's story was the same. It was, hey, me and my buddies, we were home brewing, and we said, this shit's good, let's scale it up. That was everybody's story. So I ended up getting a lot of work during that time, sitting down one-on-one, like you're saying, and pulling that story out of them, not manufacturing some story with a corporate fantasy, but really being like, okay, guys, it's more than just you guys, and start drilling down what their relationship meant to them, what activities they did. And then all of a sudden we got this like elongated story where it wasn't just a couple guys with a t-shirt and a dream in a garage, Yep.
I love it. I love it to be able to help craft that story. And Donald Miller from StoryBrand does some really good work. He's been doing it for, gosh, it seems like it's been over a decade now. He's been writing for a couple of decades. I remember his first book, Blue Like Jazz, that came out. And so people like Donald Miller, Seth Godin, others that are sort of giants in the space, paved the path. We're just taking iterations from some of that great work. Yeah, I love it.
Exactly. You give you a book during that time too. My business model is the Purple Cow.
Oh, come on. Yeah, I love it, Nate. Yeah.
Once I read that book, I was like, this is it. I don't mind being a purple cow in a sea of white cows.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're getting some book and some name drops right here that are they're gonna bless you, man. Like, go get those books and resources.
Timothy, let's talk about this. We talk about a lot of things about resilience and grit and things like that, but I don't think we talk about messaging enough in here now. And I'm talking about this in real time. I obviously have nothing prepped in this conversation. Let's go down that path because you work so deeply with purpose and passion and story. Let's talk about that and that situation we just brought up, where a lot of discovery meetings I have, and I'm sure you as well. You might have people that have the passion and have the story, but they don't necessarily know how to articulate it. And then to take that authentic story and then spread it across the campaign and brand education and brand awareness. How do you guys kind of manage that with executing the services you want to do to grow the brand while maintaining that authentic story and not just appeasing to the masses for sales?
Well, first thing you have to ask yourself is, what brand am I actually trying to promote here? Is it a personal brand, or is it like a corporate brand, or some kind of other entity, a nonprofit brand, or are we really circling around a person? Like, is this around a name of a person or a name of a company? And in some cases, it's both. Like, you think of like John Maxwell or Tony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey, or like you fill in the blank. There's Clifford Starks. No, I'm just kidding. But you get the idea. The decision up front is, what brand are we actually promoting? And so once you make that decision, let's take it to the simplest example, which is a personal brand, because a lot of the principles can be applied to the corporate brand, but you just have to make the decision up. And usually in the first couple of years of a business, for those who are just starting out or trying to reach their first million, or trying to reach their first million people impacted, or whatever the metric is, usually in the first couple of years, it's a personal brand that's sort of providing fuel for everything you're doing, because you have relational equity with your potential clients, customers, and audience. So let's assume that just for a minute. Once you have your sort of profiles dialed in and some of the language of who you're trying to serve, you have to find your origin story. You have to share that in a way, like you said, Nate, it's more than just I started in my garage, which every startup started in their living room, garage, or mom's basement. Like, every single one of them did. Like, so that's not really unique. However, you can quickly mention that. That's fine. But you got to move into a little bit more of your background with an aha moment. That's step number one. So for those who are taking notes, a little bit of your background with an aha moment. There has to be an aha moment. For me, it was when I turned around and I realized, I think I'm a lonelypreneur in the marketing space. I need to find a tribe. I need to either join something or start something. So I did a little bit of both. But that was my aha moment when I realized the Giver Marketing Network needed to be a thing. Okay. And then once you give that background with an aha moment, step number 2 is describe who and why you help the people you serve. It's an exercise in describing who you're serving, but why are you serving them? That's the why is actually where Simon Sinek's genius level stuff starts coming in. You want to start with why? Well, this origin story should include that why. I like working with causes and companies because there's so much negative noise out there. I would literally go into a deep depression if I had to work with some of these organizations that are all about hate and fear. I don't know if I could even eat in the morning. Like, I don't know what would happen to me. I've worked with one political campaign. They were fairly positive, and so I was able to handle it. But most of these other companies and organizations and political movements and all these things that are full of hate and fear, not interested at all. My body can't even take it. It's so intense. And so when I choose to sort of focus on the causes and companies doing good in the world, I have to not only know that that's part of my why, but that's also part of, I need to know their why. I need to know a little bit about them. So the best way to introduce yourself in a podcast like this, a broadcast of any kind, an event, is to share your origin story with as many people as you can. Put it on your LinkedIn profile, put it on your social feeds, do it in video form, written form, do it on the fly in conversations, do it when you're being introduced somewhere, do it when you go on stage. Share the origin story. It's the most powerful 90 seconds on the planet. Stories are 5 to 20 times more memorable than facts. So if you notice, I'm not sharing a ton of facts here. I'm sharing everything in the form of narrative, even as we're talking. It's an art form. It's something you have to practice. But for some people, like, just tell me a little bit about how you got to do what you're doing. That's the story prompt that gets it coming out. Ask yourself that question. Hey, why am I doing what I'm doing? And start peppering that in. So background with an aha moment, why and how you help your who. Background with an aha moment, why and how you help your who.
I actually I got a question too, because when we're talking about messaging, and what I learned about messaging is when you get your message right, like that clarity hits in a way where you can speak with a new level of conviction. And I want to ask you, Timothy, is there a time where you help someone just get it and they got it and they showed up differently and they responded differently in what they do?
When I have sessions with clients, they'll either get really excited or start crying because they're super thankful for the ability to draw out what they're doing and match it with the audience who actually cares. The sideways energy of just going after anybody and everybody who has a few dollars in their pocket or happens to be leading an organization of some kind, and you're pitch slapping them everywhere that you can. Those days are pretty much over. Like, that's not what we do anymore, because there's too many options to go find people that actually align with who we are. The internet age, the communication age, and now we're in the application age, which is it's a little bit of an iteration of all that. Doesn't allow us to just go and work with generic audiences anymore. We have to get more specific. Does that help? Yeah,
that was, yeah. Thank you.
No, that's a good way to look at it. Recently I have another podcast that I do called Ready to Drink, and I interview founders in the food and beverage industry. And I recently, last week, had one that was getting ready to retire, and he's selling his business. And he'd been in business for 29 years. And I think it was one of the first times I dove really deep into him and took him back to the first days and the early days. And he got emotional. He got very emotional at the end, because in the moment I was like, my entire career I have to thank for this man, because I built my beginning of my career on the craft beer industry. And this guy fought the fight in 1996 when nobody gave a shit about craft beer. And he went to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and bought a barn and opened a brewery and held his ground for 29 years. And I shared that at the end with him. I haven't released the episode yet. I'm really looking forward to it. But his reaction, I mean, this is a rural farming community man that is pretty held on to his sensitivities and his emotions, and it came out. And I think it felt like in the moment, the energy of that moment felt like he was just realizing that he like has changed lives with just having a small brewery in a small little town. But what I showed him was the collective, and how the collective of all of you in the 90s that did what you did made it possible for me in 2004 to have a job and then to move on and start my own business. And when you start laying that ripple out for people, kind of like what Clifford was talking about, when you see that nucleus and you change that energy in the nucleus, and then all of a sudden you can see the ripple in the pond, that was so fulfilling for me, like more than any money I've ever made or any client I've ever landed. To be able to help somebody see the impact that they made on their way out the door is something that I'll always remember. Like I'll forget. I'll talk about this for years for now.
Yeah, it's not always as much about what we do. It's why and how we help our who.
And all I asked was why.
And when you ask those questions, Nate, what was happening, it's like a privilege of asking a kid their deepest heart dreams or their deepest parts of their heart. Like it's like asking, well, I often think of businesses or brands like babies. You help raise them, you help them come to life, you help raise them, and hopefully you help them go and do what they're supposed to do even beyond you at some point. And so I like the analogy of brands or businesses being like babies or like children that you're raising. And that means the emotions are very similar. They're not identical, but they're very, very similar. And they're similar enough to, if you can ask those questions like you did, Nate, it's whether that gentleman works with you continually or not, that the art of asking that question is such a blessing to him.
Well, it's also back to the purpose of why I do this. I don't charge them anything for this. This is it's one of my things in this industry is the products have been such a focus and the stories behind the products have been lost. So I spent the past 3 years going around and collecting all these stories to get them out there for everybody. Yeah. So yeah, I have no financial gain or anything like that from the experience, other than now it's more or less solidified a purpose in what it is that I'm doing with that project.
Yeah, whether you end up working together later or in a different way, or it almost just the art of asking that question is worth thousands and thousands of dollars. Just the privilege, just you asking me some of these questions today, I find it refreshing and invigorating for my own journey. And I appreciate your craft and the way you do what you do.
I'm very much more. It sounds like a cowboy and shoot from the hip than your structure, but it works. So.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
It's Clifford. I want to talk a little bit about towards Timothy. Like, go back to we always like to go back to childhood a little bit, and let's go to like high school and like post graduation. Talk to us a little bit about. What were you doing? What was going on in your life, good or bad? I mean, we've shared all the warts and all in our show and stuff like that. And did you see yourself? You look like we're about the same age or so. How old are you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in my late 40s.
Yep. So yeah. So like 20, 30 years ago, did you see this position where you were right now, or as an entrepreneur, and then also an entrepreneur building up others?
See, you're bringing me back, bro. Like, I love this. Okay. So, and everybody likes to talk about their story. I mean, why wouldn't you? God put you on this earth for a reason. Like, you should share a little bit of these moments, right? I started my first business when I was 16 years old, and I was in high school. The teachers were like trying to pour into us. I was part of a business club. I still remember the teacher's name to this day because they poured so much into me. And I ended up asking my teachers if they wanted their windows cleaned so that I could save up for a car. I ended up turning that into a revenue generating machine to get me through college and then to help me get my first home. And when I was starting a family, all those kind of things. So this little 16-year-old snotty-nosed kid was running around cleaning windows for these teachers and community and people in the community. I ended up getting featured on a newspaper and some other things as a young entrepreneur. And then, gosh, I started volunteering for nonprofit efforts, started getting heavily involved in leadership for nonprofit efforts in my community. And then like 20 years in, I realized I'm doing a lot of business and a lot of nonprofit work. I better like focus in on what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I shifted gears to marketing so I could serve both the nonprofit and the for-profit business through a mechanism of that marketing coach, marketing director, now fractional CMO. And it's just a privilege to be able to do that. But in the early days, I was the kid just trying to learn about business.
When you had that revelation, how hard was that to laser the focus in? Because I think that's another thing when people are starting up, especially solopreneurs. You don't have a sounding board a lot of times. You have the support system of friends and family and maybe your spouse or things like that. But when it comes to the business, you're not crossing paths casually in the office. You're not hitting at the water cooler. How did you then refine that and then maintain that focus? Because a lot of times, including myself, I've done this 1,000 times in the past 15 years, doing way too many things, going the mile wide and an inch deep. Now I contradict myself because there's the old adage of a jack of all trades is a master of none. You know that phrase they throw around, which I used to get told all the time that people weren't in business. You know what I learned recently? I never knew this. Heard that phrase dozens of times. Mm-hmm. The rest of that phrase is what I never heard of. Do you guys know what the rest of that phrase is?
I don't remember, but I think it flips it on its head, if I remember right.
I'm on a mission after I realized like a jack of all trades, master of none is better than a master of one.
I got a thought that I do want to share, and one, I even loved the beginning of our conversation because you go, I want to talk more about messaging and less about the grit and the grind and the making it happen. And I go, oh my goodness, every master was once a disaster. A master knows how to effectively utilize and orchestrate things. And in order to get there, you got to go through bumps, lumps, and realities. And just as Timothy, a solopreneur who went, I don't want to do this anymore. I want something better. And as I go through the journey, I go, this is the game. Like, leaders are playing the game all the time. And leaders are just like everybody else, just willing to learn the lessons along the way. Like, that's the game. We get to learn the lessons along the way and go, oh crap, this makes sense. Or this makes sense. And so I get so excited with being able to connect people like Timothy and Nate together to say, hey, share your stories, share your lessons, share what's happened, share the pitfalls, share the getting out of the pitfalls. Because we don't know how we're even helping people. Like, that's the thing. Like, as a coach, half the time I don't even know that was the thing that helped them. Like, wait, that was the thing? That's the thing you heard? And I'm like, oh, people hear what they hear and they'll grab onto what serves them and go, oh, this is the thing. This will serve me. This will serve me.
It's interesting as a coach or a consultant, and it's kind of like the way I tell dad jokes. It's a volume game. You throw as much out as possible, but they're always like you just said, they're always going to grab whatever they hear. You can tell the best dad joke in the world 15 times to 15 different kids, but only 4 of them are going to think it's funny. Yep. Timothy, walk us through, like, for you, walk us through so far in your life, and your life's not over. You got another 100 years to go. Where do you think, what's a highlight of your career is like one of the most fulfilling experiences you've had, whether, I guess it could be professional or personal even. I know people say their kids or their marriages or whatever else, but let's go for the professional one. What's kind of a highlight of your career and something that is uniquely to your experience probably?
I was talking to a colleague of Zig Ziglar one time.
Nice.
And I promised him I wouldn't share his name for multiple reasons, but you know that phrase, help as many people get what they want and you'll end up getting what, like what you want or what you need, that kind of phrase. Well, that quote came from this gentleman. His name is John. And some of the biggest highlights of my working career, taking family sort of out of the conversation just for a second, is I'm starting to count the number of people that I've been able to help become either millionaires or impact 1 million people. And they're like title belts, Clifford, or they're like Super Bowl rings, or they're like, the trophy that you're just really proud of, right? So whenever I'm able to help somebody else hit certain levels, and I've had my moments, I was an early investor in Bitcoin. I've had my personal moments that were awesome. I appreciate them. Life's a roller coaster. That's fine. That's great. But helping others sort of find their path and then hit their stride and then impact a lot of people for good, those are my Super Bowl rings, man.
I love that. And I actually wanted to ask you too, one, big congratulations to you on serving as many people as you served and serving yourself on the journey. And you talk about the roller coaster. There's those moments of those highs and there's the moments of the lows. When you do get on a low, what helps you get through that low to get excited for the next high?
Yeah, I remember going through the darkest of times about 12 years ago, at least at the time of this recording. So depending on when you're listening to this, it was around 2000, let's call it 13. Okay. My personal life was just falling apart, absolutely crushed. And I had a choice to make. I could either lean into my faith or I could run from it and deconstruct every part of it and hope it gets built back together. Everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different journey. I had to lean into my faith. Otherwise, I was going to be a mess that nobody wanted to be around. That's just me. I would have become toxic.
Yeah.
Basically. And so I took the nutritional route, if you will, of my faith. And I basically started asking the tough questions. Like, for example, one of the things that came out of that was a new definition of leadership. And Clifford, you're a genius at this just based on our working together. I've picked this up, but it was confirmation of something that I've been starting to really learn about. And that is, a lot of people define leadership as influence. Well, that, in my opinion, that's half the equation, and it's fine to say that. There's nothing wrong with that. But to complete that definition in my little brain is you need to add the word responsibility. Responsibility plus influence equals leadership. And I had been missing the responsibility part. I've been so creative and innovative and a gregarious, personality-driven guy for so long, I had forgotten the R word in that leadership equation. That's why I spend time with people like Clifford Starks and you, Nate, and others who are serious about their craft and they take responsibility for their personal lives. And I'm trying to do that myself. I think that's the sort of the darkest moments that pulled some of the most interesting things out of life for me.
That's so powerful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, when it's darkest, we can see the stars, and we can only see the stars if we look up. Because if we look down, we just see our feet in a lot of darkness. So respect to that. Yeah, and respect to you. That's awesome. And also, I want to ask you, with the book that you wrote, what did you learn as you put the book together?
That's a good question. My co-author, Adam Fleming, and myself were really impressed by some of these, what they call business novellas. There's books like The 1 Minute Manager. The inspiration of our company comes from a book called The Go Giver by Bob Berg.
Nice.
Richest Man in Babylon. Like there's just all these, Patrick Lencioni writes a bunch of these kind of books where you basically take a theme or principles and you create characters around them and you make it interesting to either read, watch, or listen to, depending on how you present it. And what I learned from this book was make sure that the characters that you put together in a nonfiction book are really good. So I partnered with Adam Fleming in order to make sure that happened. It's almost like partnering with the right movie producer, that kind of a thing. And gosh, I listening to it. He's putting together the audio book right now as we speak. Like we're literally in the middle of that. And you can go to givermarketing.com/Jade, like the color or the gem or the name, Jade. And that's what this book's about. It's about this lady named Jade. She's a real estate agent. She's frustrated. She's got some relationship dynamics going. She's trying to figure out, and she needs to grow her business and keep her relationships intact at the same time. And so this mentor comes into the picture and walks her through how to do that, specifically using the giver marketing principles that I often coach about.
That's awesome. I want to ask you, who'd be reading a book like this, and what's the aha they'll get from your book?
All right, so there's people out there that love to read nonfiction books, that they just need to memorize the bullet points. They need to sort of get one or two principles, like just by reading it straight through. Mm-hmm. But there's another group of people, they need some kind of creative, like character development or something that will help them develop a narrative in their mind so they can associate that with different aspects of real life in a narrative form. And those who love to watch movies, sort of listen to stories, anybody who loves story is going to love Jade. It's for some people, it's really the best way to learn is to pick up what we call a business novella or a fiction work around a principle or a concept. Yeah.
So now I'm sitting here with two authors. I'm going to ask both of you, and you be honest, did you enjoy the process of writing the book? And I'm asking inquisitively of my own selfishness right now.
Do you want to go first, Timothy? I'll go first. I loved it because one, thank you so much, Timothy, about talking about leadership and responsibility ownership, because it's been my best friend as I've gone through this journey.
Okay.
I've hit the highs, I've hit the lows, and I know like my number one, like, okay, what am I doing this for? And I'm getting emotional actually saying, like, I always have to have the reason, because sometimes it effing sucks. Sometimes the game's hard. And when I wrote this, I wanted it to be like clear and concise. And just like anything, it's not the first time you do it. You're like, oh man, I put everything I had into it and that's what I came up with. Damn it. And so I did it again and I did it again and I did it again. And it finally hit where my audience was like, it's like I have Cliff in a pocket. I was like, fuck, I got there. So was it worth it? Yeah. Did I get a lot of bumps along the way? Yes to that too.
I think there's two or three different ways to get a book out of somebody and sort of get their work on in an easy digestible format of some kind, right? I think you can hire a company, leverage a bunch of technology, and sort of take what they've already done, sort of their body of work, and put it together. And there's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate the process. I didn't always enjoy it, but I appreciate the process of doing it sort of the nitty gritty, like earthy way, like just getting in there and sort of doing it, self-publishing. It helped me understand my co-author a lot more as a friend. It helped us put nuances into the resource that can live on a little bit longer because of the way we did it. And so I definitely did not like certain aspects of the sort of the logistical parts of it, the editing parts of it, but going through it was sort of a good process for me personally to understand what it takes to actually put something of value together. You know, you can do sort of the, hey, quick black and white copy version of whatever you're doing for presentations, or you can put a visual together that makes sense for the audience. And so we tried to sort of put a little bit of extra love into it. And I now appreciate those who put together book covers, different nuances, chapter titles, all the different, okay, what's the calls to action at the end of each chapter or the end of the book itself or the resource. I have a much more, because I'm not as much in the weeds as I used to be. I'm much more appreciative of the people who put these resources together.
I love that. I actually have a question for you as going from solopreneur to working with the team. And Nate, even you talking about a jack of all trades is a master of none, but it's better than a master of one. When I was an athlete, I got into team sport. And I kind of was like, this effing sucks. Like, I hate being attributed to a team. I'm going to go one-on-one. And that's what got me into fighting and shot put and wrestling and things like that. And then when I got into entrepreneurship, I learned that, oh my God, I'm always part of a team. Whether I'm the front person or not, you're always part of a team. And I had to become a better leader and learn how to navigate in the world that I wanted to create. And I look back and I go, oh my goodness, I was creating my own reality all of this time. And so with you supporting, like you going the solopreneur route and then supporting teams, what's a big insight that you got as you navigated going from one space to expansion into something else?
I think it's important to learn a craft and become a master of something. However, I think that will only get you so far. There's nothing significant that I've seen anybody do. I mean, truly significant. I don't mean like, hey, I got a cool award or something like that. I mean, truly significant, like impacting thousands of people or more that they've done it alone. Even the greatest fighters have a coach in their corner, right? I mean, even Lone Ranger had a sidekick. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing really significant you can actually do all by yourself when it comes to affecting other people. Now you can do significant inner work, like you talk about, Clifford, all the time. You can do significant inner work, but you can't do significant work that like impacts maybe more than a handful of people.
Yep.
Without building a little team or a cohort or a group or something of a dynamic where you're getting constant feedback, working together, leveraging strengths. You talked about the A team earlier, Nate. That's a great one because, you take one of those characters and they're not going to do anything significant without their A team. And I'm always building A teams. We use that language, so I appreciate you bringing it up. So yeah, I think that's one of the principles is, look, find your superpower and then find your team. Find your superpower and then find your team. If you can't do both of those, you'll probably be okay. Like God designed us to survive, but you're not gonna thrive like you probably want to, if I'm being real.
That's so damn powerful, and I actually want to repeat it. Find your superpower and find your team. Person does that, and all of a sudden they are hitting it out the park, and it's about doing that with intentionality. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's super powerful.
Also, a little side note for those people who are dealing with addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's the neuroscience. It's proven that to overcome things that are negative or destructive in your life, it does require a little bit of a support group of some kind. So there's the other side of this too, like not only pursuing your dreams, but if you're having issues with destructive patterns, behaviors, or track you're on, find a team that's going to be like, what are you doing? Let's go. You're born for more than this. Let's go. Like,
this is so damn powerful. My goodness.
Timothy doesn't even know he's sitting me over here. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Timothy, that's where my revelation came from. I spent many years, obviously, as a solopreneur and pounded my chest as an egotistical fucking maniac that I was building my own business on my own shoulders and nobody gave me anything and blah, blah, blah. And this little barbecue salt and vinegar chip that was on my shoulder. And it wasn't until my entire house of cards, and you brought up a date and I'll give you mine, from 2016 to 2022 in December, absolute spiraling alcoholism, working in the beer industry while a high functioning alcoholic. And it was not until I went to rehab that I had exactly what you just said, which was the revelation that I was in rehab. And in that moment, I'm sitting in rehab and I'm like, I'm doing this too by myself. No, I tried for over 6 years, about 10 to 12 different times to get sober, to get my personal life together, to get my mind straight, and to get my mental health under control. It took 6 years of stops and starts. I was a goddamn rubber band because I would stop for a few months and be awesome, and then the rubber band would snap and I'd be off on a bender for however long. What I came to in that conclusion was every single person that I was looked up to or whatever else. I read Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, all the way through, had the hard copies sent to my house. Everyone was proud and they're self-made millionaires. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm from a blue collar family, one of the first to go to college and all this stuff. I'm going to be a self-made millionaire. Well, let me tell the public, it's all bullshit. Because you either got a loan, you had the capital to float through the tough times, so you didn't have to almost want to kill yourself. And no exaggeration on that. I don't make light of that statement. I mean that I've been there. Things got dark. Or they had a moral support and an emotional support system. There is not one person that can call me on the phone today. I don't even care how rich you are, and actually tell me, and then go out and verify it, that no one helped you at any step along the way that became that cataclysm moment. Now, on the flip side, Timothy, I've said it on here as well. AA didn't work for me. So I had to find a different path separate from AA, a more secular path that was more flexible and everything like that. But that also wasn't by myself. And even in that moment, I used to say, oh, I don't need AA. I can do this on my own. But it wasn't until I got my head out of my ass and realized that nothing I've ever done that was of merit was by myself. And in actuality, every time I stunted my personal and my professional growth in my business and fell down and went backwards was because I was not looking at the lessons that were in front of me, and I was repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect individual today. I'm far from that. But my perception of the world is flipped completely differently to where I actually have watched video and read back my journals and different things like that. I do not even understand, or I connect because it was me at some point, but I don't recognize that person that has those feelings and those perspectives.
I'm part of a group called C12, and a gentleman named Robert Henderson. He's one of my mentors, one of my associates in C12 as well. He said, "You know what ego stands for, Timothy?" And there's probably a ton of acronyms or whatever, but this one hit me, and I had to tell my wife yesterday. I'm like, I apologize, because I've been edging God out of my life in some areas. I've been sort of ignoring his voice in certain areas. And I'm pretty forward with my faith, obviously, but if you're edging that voice out that helps you stay focused on the right things, and in my case, edging God out, that's a big red flag that ego is taking over. I view ego like testosterone. You need a little bit to sort of like just experiment and like get up in the morning, kind of figure and sort of self strength to some degree. But you have too much, and you're going to end up with big problems. Big problems. It'll hurt you, especially if you go too long doing certain things. And so, I view it like sort of a balance equation of some kind, a chemical balance in your body or something like that. But ultimately, if I'm the one driving the ship, and I'm the only one talking to me, and I, and me, and my, and whenever conversations are happening where I'm so hyper focused on me, my, and I statements, unless I'm telling a story or something, it's really not as helpful as one would think. And it's hard to catch yourself doing that, but generally speaking, unless you're being asked very specific questions, I, me, and my statements point to maybe a hint of narcissism, maybe a hint of self-importance, maybe a hint of ego, and some of these things start sort of making themselves very known. And then it's just a matter of time before you're going to hit rock bottom, because the people around you may not be all in for you because of the way that, you've lived your life. And I'm trying to course correct some of those things myself right now. So I'm sort of preaching to the choir in a way, but at the end of the day, Nate, when you said ego was sort of my big, a big trip up for me. Yeah, I think there's a part of ego that's sort of neutral, but there's a part that's devastating. And I don't know where that line is. I don't know exactly where that is, but I know where some of the clues are for sure.
It's I'll wrap up with this one. Just real quick. It's when you said that, you sparked a memory, and I've been having this a lot in the past couple of years. You sparked a childhood memory for me. It was in 7th grade, my English teacher, and I'm losing her name for the life of me, and I wish I could remember it because she was a fantastic teacher. But in 7th grade, she would go through anytime we wrote essays, and either if we use the word like, because this is 1997 at this point, we were using like a lot, or if it said I, or if it spoke from the first person, she would take her red pen and X down across, and you get points taken off. And it changed the entire way. Obviously, later in life, in my adulthood, I ignored this part, but it changed my entire perspective of how to write through middle school and then through high school and then into college. It didn't correlate to my personal life and how I view the world until later, but it was interesting that I have never thought about that until this moment right now. And I apologize for interrupting you, Clifford. I just had to get that out there, that there are people out in the world that, again, there are people that steer us in the right direction, and we might forget about them over time, but they did set us on a different pivot and trajectory in different ways.
Yeah. I actually want to share, we're short on time, and Timothy's such an amazing guest that I would love to have him back. No pressure, but I would love to have you back again, because this is a game of connection and communication and putting the right people together. in business, put the right, you put the team together and the team puts the business together. And it took me some time to figure that one out. I'm still figuring it out. Like sometimes we got to relearn the lesson. But Timothy, I want to thank you for being on. I want to thank you for sharing your insights. And I also want to ask, what's the best way people can get a hold of you? When's your book going to be out? Let's put some notes on the bottom for where people can get the book. But yeah, and if you have any last thoughts that you would like to share.
I just find it a privilege to be able to swap stories and find possibilities with friends like yourself. And I know, we're connected on socials. We've had some brief conversations and we continue to develop our working relationship. But just to get here and go a little deeper together, it's been a privilege. It's just, I wake up every morning thinking, how can I have meaningful conversations like this? So thank you so much. Yeah, givermarketing.com/Jade. It's sort of a secret link right now. So you want to maybe go grab your spot and check it out. Givermarketing.com/Jade, Jade. And that'll get you to a special page that'll welcome you into a group. It's sort of that invite only group for our book launch folks. And if you want to learn how to publish a book, learn how to promote a book, learn how to stay connected with those folks who helps you spread the word about your book and sort of do it right with relational integrity and connectedness and group dynamics and sort of let it grow naturally through relationships. You want to jump into that space. So, because you'll learn just by being there. You won't even have to buy anything necessarily, even though we want your support. And we appreciate your support, but just being there, it's like just listening to this podcast, you're learning something, you're growing, you're connecting, you're developing something, right? And so I appreciate that. And you can also find my scheduler if you look hard enough on givermarketing.com.
Awesome.
Timothy, thank you so much. Thank you for my end of things. Thank you so much for taking the time today. But most importantly, thank you so much for having the courage to hop on blind on a podcast. There's no prep and there's no questions in advance. And I know that's nerve-wracking for a lot of people. Clifford and I pride ourselves in it's a filtration system. Nobody's going to come on and bullshit us at all. And we can tell right off the bat. And you're a true, genuine, authentic person. And I really appreciate the courage. It takes a lot to hop on there. And especially in the world today, are they going to give me zingers? Is it going to be clickbait? Is it going to be this? I'm sure all those thoughts went through your head. And I'm happy that you went through and you got to see the painless process of engaging. And just the last thing for everybody, the number one lesson we want everybody to understand is not only do we have all these business tactics and we got these tools and we got these action items in these episodes, but the number one thing is remember, connect with people. Okay, smile at a stranger, say hi, ask them how you're doing. What you just watched right here was strangers connecting, finding common ground, and making friendships. That's how easy it is. You don't walk around, like Clifford just said, with your head down on the ground, staring at your ugly ass toes. Look up, smile at a few strangers, and make somebody else's life better today. It doesn't take any money at all to smile and have a good day.
I love it. Timothy, thank you so much for being on. We appreciate
Thank you, Timothy.